Hello, everyone. This is Professor Capko, and I've got a special treat for you today. Today, we have a sleep coach that we're going to be able to ask questions of. This is Amy Korn-Reavis, and she will be here to tell you all about how to become a better sleeper and why that's important. So Amy and I have known each other, what, about 10 years now, I would say?
Probably
I think it's
10,
probably been about
11
10
years.
years,
Yeah.
definitely. And you haven't disowned me yet. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell the folks a little bit about your background, and then I've got some questions for you.
So, like Robert said, I've known him for about 10 years. We used to teach together at Concord College. I'm a registered respiratory therapist. I'm a sleep technologist and a clinical sleep educator. I also have my certifications as a life coach and as a health and wellness coach. So I've really have been in the field of sleep for the past 30 years. And really the idea of a sleep coach is that we know sleep is important, but we don't know the little changes we can make during the day and in the evening that will help us to sleep better at night. And especially if you're a student, whether you're an adult learner or as a high school student or a college student, we see changes in grades. When I was doing the sleep coaching at Concord, the kids who followed my suggestions, we would see like letter grade changes. Sometimes we had a couple of kids that actually went from D's to like B's and A's because you can remember things better and you can learn things better when you sleep better.
That's awesome. That's a great thing. I'm sure a lot of my viewers will love to hear that. Now, before I met you, I honestly had never heard of a sleep coach before. What is it you do? What does a sleep coach do?
So the funny thing is that really what it started as is I was a sleep technologist who was working with my patients. They come into the sleep lab, have a sleep study. They would get a machine to help them to breathe, but nobody would help them with like the changes they needed to make in their lives to help them to sleep better, because the machine's not going to fix all the problems. A drug isn't going to fix all the problems. There are little changes you can make during the day that aren't huge, but just like little tiny shifts that will actually help you to sleep better. And when we sleep better, we feel better, we have more energy, our memory improves. It's all really important things that are that we need for our day-to-day life.
So what you're saying basically is when you were working at the sleep lab, they were just measuring and giving data, whereas now you actually help people improve what those
Yeah,
results are. Is that correct?
absolutely.
What made you decide to become a sleep coach?
Well, like I said, when I was working, I saw this big gap. I mean, it was just this big gap that, like, if you go to the doctor and you say, I'm not sleeping well, he gives you a pill and he says, good luck. Or you go on Dr. Google and he says, okay, you need to not watch TV for 2 hours. You need to have the room dark and quiet. Good luck. But you don't have somebody who can, like, say, okay, let's plan this out. What little change can we make this week so you can sleep better tonight? And next week we'll add another little change. So I saw this big gap and I wanted to fill it. And so I started by writing, and I have had a blog. And then I published a book. And um, then I started to work with people one on one and really started to see those improvements.
Awesome. What's the name of your book?
My book is called How to Make CPAP Your Friend.
Oh,
For those
wow.
who are on CPAP, it, there's that gap, and the gap needs to be filled. So this is one of the things that I did.
Not everybody knows. I've heard of CPAP. I know a lot of folks have, but there are still some folks that may not know what you're talking about. Can you describe what CPAP is?
So there's a condition called sleep apnea where you stop breathing in your sleep, and it causes your oxygen levels to drop. It causes your blood pressure to go up. It can cause all kinds of health issues. And so they treat it with a machine called the CPAP that actually is like an air slit that you wear a mask, it blows air, and it helps keep your airway open so that way it doesn't close when you sleep. But you have to learn how to use it. And really, it's like a lot of things in medicine. where they give you something and then they send you on your way. And really, you need that support. So I wrote the book because I knew that people needed support. And it was a good first step to doing that.
Awesome. And where can that book be found?
It's on Amazon. It's a digital.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to put a link down below if anyone wants to pick that up, because I think that's an excellent book, and I highly recommend that you read it. Grab your copy today if you can. Um, Now you mentioned television. You've brought up something that has been a big dispute between my wife and myself, and I'm sure you're gonna be on my side with this. Ever since I was a teenager, I always would have a TV on in my room to help me go to sleep. It's like, to me, it's like white noise, helping me go to sleep. I have the TV on, and my wife hates it. And but I think that's okay, right? It should help me go to
Yeah,
sleep.
no, not so
No,
much.
no.
So, and people don't realize it's not even about the sound, although you will hear at night, like the sound goes up and down because it's trying to disturb your sleep. But the lights from the TV are actually the problem. And it's designed to wake you up. That's why when you watch the 1 o'clock infomercials, they're bright and dark because that wakes you up. And then when we're sleep deprived, we don't have access to the frontal lobe of our brain. The frontal lobe is where we make all of our critical decisions, right? And so that's why they're trying to sell you something in the middle of the night that you don't need, that costs too much, like I don't know. I have one friend who bought like 3 blenders
Oh,
because she
wow.
was up in the middle of the night. And
Real
so
estate courses.
real estate courses, like all those different things. But it's because we're sleep deprived, we don't have access to that judgment center of our brain, and so we don't make good decisions. But that they're specifically designed for that. So if you do need white noise, there are plenty of free white noise apps. Some people like the noise of people speaking. So you can use things like bedtime stories. They have adult bedtime stories, not adult bedtime stories, adult bedtime stories. They're mostly
Bedtime stories
travelogues,
for adults is what you're
bedtime
saying.
stories for adults. They're like travelogues and something, but they give you a voice that you can hear that's nice and calm and soothing. That's like white noise. So there are options, and some people listen to audiobooks. What Those are much better choices if you need to hear the sound of a human voice. But you can also use a white noise app. I like thunderstorms. That's my jam. And so when I'm traveling, I don't use it at home because I don't need it. But when I'm traveling and I'm in a hotel, I'll always use a white noise app that plays thunderstorms. So that way it's relaxing. It helps. It doesn't drown out the noises around you, but those noises don't stand out as much. So you can sleep better at night.
So, Amy, what you're telling me is they purposely try and make it so I can't sleep with the stuff that's on the television.
You got it.
That's wow. That's something new for me to hear. I didn't realize that they were working against us on that. So, but you're right. I mean, I guess if you're tired, you're not going to make good decisions. We all have probably experienced that before, making poor decisions when we're tired. And would that have an
Yeah,
impact on like your job or your schooling if you are too tired to make good
absolutely.
decisions? Tell us how that would
Absolutely.
work and how that has a
So
bad
I'm going to
impact.
start with the schooling and then I'm going to
Sure.
talk about jobs. So when we're sleep deprived, during the first third of the night of our sleep is when we go into deep sleep. And that's where we take that short-term memory and put it into long-term memory. So think of it like you have this inbox with all this data, this paperwork in it, and now you have to put it in a file cabinet. When it's in the file cabinet, you can pull that information out really well, easily. So when we get the sleep that we need, we're able to now go to that file cabinet and pull it out. So if I'm taking an exam, I want to make sure that at least the 2 nights before the exam, I'm getting this good night's sleep because I want really easy access to all that information. So a lot of students say, well, if I cram, I'm going to get that information. You may get that information, but now it's in an inbox that you have to kind of dig through to get to it. And it's really not accessible. But if you get that sleep, you now have really easy access to that information, and your grades just show it. And you go through an exam and you're like, oh, this is so much easier. Why is it? It isn't that you learn better, it's that you're able to access the information better.
I love that analogy of the inbox because I can just imagine everything, either a physical inbox or your email inbox, or just everything's thrown at you and it's not in any kind of organized fashion.
Yeah,
And if you're looking for something, we don't have the little search function to find it too easily.
right. So with work, there's even more involved because you have to think about not only am I going to need data, but I need data and I need to be able to make quick decisions all the time. And I need to have emotional intelligence, right? And so when we are sleep deprived, we're more irritable. So we don't have that emotional intelligence we need to work with other people. We don't have that ability to grab data, and we're not able to think as clearly and as sharply and make decisions as quickly. And so all those things together make for it to work our work really difficult, when really what we need to do is get that sleep we need, so that way our work is so much easier. So staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning working actually ends up being a detriment to your job, rather than going to bed when you need to go to bed and then starting work again in the morning. That thing that you were going to do at 10 o'clock at night takes twice as long to do at 10 o'clock at night as it does at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Interesting. Well, how many hours do people need to sleep?
So adults need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. And I can't look at somebody and tell them how many hours of sleep they need. You kind of have to know, there are ways of figuring it out. The best way for me is you have to go like 2 weeks with no sleep deprivation. And then on the weekend, for the 3 days on the weekend, you don't want to set an alarm. And then you just want to see how many hours of sleep you get. And when you wake up, not hitting the snooze button, but when you wake up, and that'll give you an idea of how much sleep you need.
That's interesting. So you're kind of like experimenting on yourself to learn.
Yeah. So I'm like a 7.5 hour girl. I really need like 7.5 hours. That when I get that, that's my optimal. Somewhere between 7.5, sometimes 8, depending if I've worked out or if I've injured myself. I need more sleep.
Now, I've heard that you've talked about it makes it harder to memorize things or to access the data that's already in your brain. It makes you grumpy and it makes it more difficult to make good decisions. Are there any other health effects to not getting enough sleep?
There are lots of health effects. That's part of the problem, is that there are things we only do in our sleep that we don't do any other time. We heal our body in our sleep. Our brain does all of its maintenance only when we're asleep. We produce growth hormone in our sleep, which is what helps us replace the cells in our body. So everything that we do, like, people have this idea that sleep is wasted time, or that sleep we don't do anything, but our body has so many things it has to do in our sleep. It's actually very busy. And when you sleep deprive yourself, you're sleep depriving yourself of the time that your body needs to take care of itself.
Very interesting. With all this, a lot of people now have sleep trackers. What are your thoughts on those? Are those
Uh,
good, bad?
so here's the thing about sleep trackers. They're not they're good. They're okay. But then they have like these things like readiness scores and sleep scores. They don't mean anything. They're not based in science. Well, they're based in the company's science, but they're
Oh,
not
right.
based in science, right? And really what you have to do is understand that they're more about looking at lots of material, like long-term material, and looking at trends. So, like, if you look at my hand, I've got two sleep trackers on. I've got my watch, my
Okay.
Samsung watch, and I have an Aura ring. I bought this because I had a lot of clients who had it, and I can't tell you about it unless I've used it. So, yeah, there I am with the Aura ring. What it tells me is what I do. What I want to see is my averages over a period of time. But it also, I have to understand that they're not overly accurate. They're and that some things are not, like, they say that you have a lot of awake time during the night. That may not actually be awake. It may be transition times because when we transition from like regular sleep to REM sleep where we dream, there's a transition there, and that can look like wake because we're changing positions, but it's not really wake.
Hmm.
So it can overestimate wake. It can overestimate or underestimate things depending on also on your health. So you have to kind of be aware that they're a good tool, but they're not going to make you sleep better.
Now, that brings an interesting question about accuracy. Since you've got both of them on, does the data agree between them?
No.
You don't know which
So
one's right, but they don't agree.
they
So
do not agree. And I actually did a sleep study, and my watch is actually closer to my sleep study than my ring.
interesting. Very interesting. So at least in your experience, the Samsung Watch is pretty accurate then, was it?
Well, it's closer than the
Closer.
ring
Okay.
is, and it may be just because of me and my physiology, but I also tend to have I move a little bit more in my sleep, and because I move a little more in my sleep, the watch picks it up as movement time versus being awake, and the
Oh,
ring
okay.
doesn't.
Now you mentioned dreams. I notice that I go through periods where I remember my dreams in the morning and other times where I don't. Does any of that mean anything or?
It has more to do with when you wake up. If you wake up at the end of REM or while you're in REM, let's say your alarm goes off and you're in REM sleep, you're more likely to remember those dreams, but you'll notice that they fade away pretty fast. We're not really designed like if you think scientifically, we're not really we're designed to remember our dreams. They don't have the significance that some people put to them. Um, so we're not really designed to remember them. Some people do, some people don't. Some people believe in lucid dreaming, some people don't. It's really the science. You have to understand the science of sleep to understand that we all go into REM unless we take medications that keep us from going into REM. REM is where we dream. And so if I wake up in the middle of REM, then I'm more likely to remember my dreams.
it- So what are the different phases? There's REM, there's what, deep sleep?
So
What
there's basically stage one sleep. That's that drifty. There's wake, which is in a stage of sleep. There's stage one sleep. That's that drifty. You're lying in the bed, you're like kind of relaxed, you're kind of drifting, but you're still aware of your surroundings. That's the first stage of sleep. That's kind of a transition between sleep and awake. Stage two sleep is how we sleep a majority of time. Stage three sleep is our deep sleep, or sometimes called delta sleep, is our slow wave sleep, is where our body does a lot of its repair work. Our brain does its repair work. It's that deep sleep. The best way to describe it is if you ever watch a baby sleep and they look so peaceful and they're
Yeah.
just so angelic, that's their deep sleep. And children get a lot of deep sleep. As we get older, that usually happens at the beginning of the night. For the first third of the night is when we get our deep sleep. Um, and then there's REM sleep, or that's also sometimes called active sleep. That's where we dream. And so that is where kind of like we take what we experience during the day and process it. And we do that in cycles through the night. So we cycle in our sleep. So every hour and a half to 2 hours ish, some people a little bit longer, some people a little bit shorter, we go into REM. And our REMs get longer as the night goes on. So our first REM's really short. It's like 5 to 15 minutes. And then our second REM's a little bit longer, maybe 15, 20 minutes. Our third and our fourth REM can be anywhere from 20 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour, depending. So, and we do that throughout the night. So as the night goes on, we get more REM.
But it sounds like deep sleep or that delta sleep is the one
Yeah.
we want to maximize.
Well, no, we want to maximize everything.
Oh, we maximize all of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the more
But we
sleep
want
you
to
get in
make
general,
sure,
the more of each of them you get.
right. But you have to, but that delta sleep happens the first third of the night. So that's why we always suggest that you have a regular bedtime.
Oh, okay.
So you get that deep sleep.
Well, with regular bedtime, that brings up the idea. I know some people like naps, and other people think that the nap will make it more difficult to go to sleep.
Well, and it
Naps, good or
depends.
bad?
So that depends on the person.
Okay.
But if you're going to take a nap, you want to keep that nap to 20 minutes because you don't want to go into REM sleep. So you
Okay.
want to keep it nice and short. So a nap should be about 20 minutes long because that gives you enough time that you get the rest that you need to recover, but it doesn't allow you to go into REM, which is where you dream. Because then when you wake up, you know how like sometimes if you take a long nap, you wake up and you feel like you've been run over by a bus. It's
Yes.
like,
Very groggy.
yes, right? That's because you went into REM sleep. Now your circadian rhythm's all confused. Your body's like, am I supposed to be awake? Am I supposed to be asleep? What am I supposed to be doing? Where you keep it short and you don't go into REM, then you wake up, you feel refreshed. Your brain's like, it's like emptying the inbox. And then you can start fresh again.
Okay. So, because I know sometimes I love taking a nap, but you're right. There are times I'll wake up groggy, and other times I wake up and I feel like $1,000,000 afterwards.
Right. So you have to kind of
20
weigh
minutes.
the
So,
pros and cons.
what would be your 5 top sleep tips that the viewers can take home with them today?
So my first one is that if you want to sleep well at night, one of the things you need to do is get sunlight in the morning because that helps to set your circadian rhythm or your internal clock. The second thing I would tell people is that you need a consistent bedtime. That doesn't mean you need to do it 100% of the time. We're not talking about going on a diet here. We're talking about a lifestyle. So,
Okay.
be a little bit 80-20 here. So, a consistent bedtime. And then remember that you need to have a wind down time beforehand. So have a bedtime routine before you go to bed that you enjoy. But that doesn't include things like TV because you don't want the lights from the TV. You want something that'll help you to relax. So maybe a little reading. I have some people who build Legos. I have some people who do puzzles. Um, I have a lot of people, we do relaxation exercises together. We do a little bit of journaling together. So you find the things that help you to unwind. So having that bedtime routine. I think that another thing is making sure you have enough movement during the day. And I'm not talking about necessarily exercise, but movement. We spend so much time sitting and looking at computers and studying, and but you need to get up every couple of hours and just move for 5 minutes. Put on music, put on walk around the house, go run with your dog. Well, my dog doesn't run, he's a pug, but go play with the pets, whatever you need to do. But it's just for 5 minutes. We can all find that 5 minutes to do that. And then my last is to make sure that your bedroom environment is not cluttered and chaotic. You need
Ah,
that peaceful sanctuary to help you to sleep the best you can.
that is great. Those are great tips. I'm definitely gonna have to try and do some of more of those going forward because I know how important sleep is, and definitely the movement one is good too. I feel that when I go out for walks, my wife and I would go for a walk right before we go to bed, and sometimes that we'd have some of the best sleep after that.
Mm-hmm.
Just it relaxes us.
See, and that's it. If that becomes part of your sleep routine, then you're like, okay, we know we're going to go outside as long as the weather's nice. And I mean,
Mm,
we are lucky we live in Florida, so we have good weather most of the time. But if if you make that part of your sleep routine, that's great. But you don't want strenuous exercise before bed. You
right.
want that nice mellow. We're going to go for a stroll.
Nice, nice. That is nice. Now, you mentioned we're in Florida. If somebody wanted to work with you, do they have to be in Florida? Do they have to be near you
Oh no,
to work with you? Okay.
I
Well, how do
I
they
work
get in
with
touch with you?
people. I work with people in 33 countries now.
Wow.
So, um, I have a website. It's akorncoaching.com, AKORN, because that's my name. Um, or I'm on all the social media. My name's Amy Korn-Reavis. Everything's under my name. So if you want to find me, all you have to do is look for Amy Korn-Reavis. I always respond to people who reach out to me. Um, and I always want you to see if we're a good match. So don't ever not reach out because you're like, I don't know if this is right for me. We can talk because I want people to sleep well. I want to make sure we're a good match. But if I think that maybe you have a physical issue, I'm going to send you over to the doctor. And I've done that with a lot of people where I send them to the doctor because I'm not the match for them. They have a physical problem. So I'm not that person.
No, that's great stuff. And I'm going to put links to all of that down in the description. So if anybody wants to get her book, you send me a link to your blog as well.
I will
And
send you a link to my
we'll
blog,
put
my
all that
book,
down there,
and
book,
my website. So if
websites,
anybody has questions, I have lots of information on my blog, so you can check it out there. And
a lot of the stuff you've taught me has helped me sleep better. It's definitely just picking up, just listening to you to talk to other people. I've picked up a lot on that.
we had a good time teaching students.
Yes, it was. It was, and I think it improved their grades, as you said. It definitely was a big impact upon them, and they were going to go into their careers with that
Mm-hmm.
newfound knowledge, and that could help anyone watching this today. So this is wonderful. I know you've got to run. Um, can we do this again sometime?
Absolutely.
Because I think everyone's going to love this. And if you do like this, go ahead and put something in the comments. Let us know how your sleep is. If you'd like to improve your sleep, any questions you may have, put there. And of course, reach out to Amy directly. And did you have any last minute things you wanted to say before we end this? Or
I think that you've got to remember that sleep isn't a waste of time. Sleep, it has to be your priority. It is one of the pillars of health. Just like exercise, just like eating, sleep is a pillar of health.
wonderful. That's a great way to finish it off. If you like this type of stuff, first of all, thank you for the thumbs up. I ask that you subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. Amy, see you later.
All right. Bye.